Hello class, and welcome back to Master Duel Academy. I am your instructor, Professor Lex, and we will be going with a topic here this week that was actually suggested in the comments section of last week's video. I had a lot of response to it, so I figured a lot of people wanted to see a lesson about deck building, which is going to be what we will cover today. So if you have any suggestions for topics you'd like to see covered here in Master Duel Academy, which for those who are new to the series here, to be fair, it is a very new series, aims to cover more general gameplay tips as opposed to focusing on a specific deck. Definitely feel free to leave any suggestions in the comments below, and I will be glad to check that out. Also in the comments below, if you didn't turn it in last week, those of you who watched last week's lesson will know that your homework assignment is due. Last week we talked about how to play when you're losing, and I asked for your homework assignment that you tell me in the comments section about a time in which you thought about surrendering during a game but ended up not and coming back and winning the duel. So if you haven't seen the lesson yet, I'll go ahead and link it in the description so you can check it out. And then again, feel free to leave that homework assignment in the comment section below. But in any case, yeah, I want to talk about deck building a little bit, which is actually something I have covered on the channel before, but that was pretty early on, and I feel like I've grown quite a bit as a duelist in the over a year now since I think I've made that video. So definitely does not hurt to do a refresher and share my current techniques and I guess strategies, if you want to call it that, for going about building a deck here in Master Duel. Now, regardless if you're interested in building a more meta deck or something a little bit more spicy, maybe you want to cook something up, I'm going to go ahead and try to offer some tips that will help in either case. Just again, I'm going to walk you through kind of the process that I guess I undergo when making a deck, and we will go ahead and build one, I guess, kind of from scratch, and then take it from there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it here. Okay, so the first and honestly most important step when it comes to building a deck, again, regardless if you're building a more meta or established deck or cooking up something new, is to make sure that you're doing proper research. And this is a step that is really easy to forego, even by accident. It's really easy to fall into this mindset of, oh, I have this concept that I want to build and I want to do it my own way. So I'm not going to look at any other lists. I'm just going to build it myself and see how we do. But I generally advise against doing this. Honestly, not even just if you're a newer player. No matter how experienced you are at the game, I think it's always best when building a deck to just look around and see not only if anybody else has done a concept, but even a similar concept, because you never know, the combo or archetype blending that you're thinking of might have an even better variant out there that somebody's already kind of sussed out. So I think it definitely pays to just, again, do your proper research. And I think that's especially true if you are building a more meta or established deck, like Labyrinth, for example. You know, Labyrinth is a relatively new deck. It's gotten a lot of new support anyway, and it's gaining a lot of popularity and traction as a result. If you're looking to build a Labyrinth deck, then I do recommend popping over to a site like Master Duel Meta here. Master Duel Meta, for the purposes of Master Duel, I think is the most kind of concise and useful resource. But even beyond just looking at that, if the archetype you're thinking of building has been released in the TCG or OCG, then you should definitely be looking at lists like that too, you know? It definitely pays to look at YGO Pro Deck for TCG lists and the Road of the King here for more OCG lists. And I really like utilizing both resources. And especially, again, talking about Labyrinth, right? Again, new deck. They're at least a deck that has gotten new support recently and has gotten a lot stronger as a result. You can come over here to Master Duel Meta, and by clicking on any of these lists, you'll find a link that goes over here to the Labyrinth breakdown, and I love this tool on Master Duel Meta. This is by far, I think, the most useful tool for deck building, these breakdowns that they have here. This pulls from all the lists that are submitted to Master Duel Meta. If you want tournament lists only and then have pro mode, you can switch to that. But all this information comes from not only tournament lists, but also lists that have gotten Master 5 or Master 1, or that have win streaks in Master, so on and so forth. and it'll give you general breakdowns for the number of cards used and the percent of decks that number is played in. And if you hover over it, you get even more information about the number of cards played there beyond just what it shows you initially. So, like, for example, Labyrinth, you can see that Big Welcome is always played at 3 copies. It's at 100% 3 copies. The Lady Labyrinth, though, is only played at 3 copies 31% of the time. Most of the time, 69% of the time, it's played at 2 copies. So this is already, I think, one of the more useful tools. And then over here, you can see all these different lists for this specific archetype, whether they were tournament or hit master, how much gems they cost, what date they were submitted. Very, very useful tool. And again, some people might decry this and call it net decking. I am pretty staunchly opposed to terms like that, not because I think they're like offensive or anything. I don't really care at all if somebody calls me or accuses me of net decking. The reason I'm so opposed to it is because I just don't think it's a productive mindset. Again, no one person should be an island, right? We should be sharing ideas, because that is by far the fastest way to grow, is to get introduced to concepts that you might not think of yourself, and then in turn explore them. But again, even beyond what's played in Master Duel, you can get a bit of an insight into how Labyrinth is played in other formats here. If you look at, like, again, YGO Pro for the TCG, or I tend to kind of prefer Road to the King because Master Duel is closer to the OCG than TCG, mainly because of Max C. Now, of course, it is still a very different format in terms of, like, the legality of the ban list and what cards are released, but still definitely worth noting there. So I think it's worth exploring, just seeing what's going on. Again, as long as you're making note of meta differences, you could still potentially get ideas of how to maybe play a deck. Like, for example, this Labyrinth deck in the OCG is teching 3 copies of Tackle Crusader, and I think that's really, really cool. I think that's a great concept. The idea is that you're discarding Tackle Crusader alongside your Dragolier or your Stovey, and that way you get to not only set a Labyrinth trap card directly from your deck, but also the Tackle Crusader can either flip a monster on your opponent's field face down or bounce one of their face-up spell or trap cards, and they can't play it for the rest of the turn. So that can be very, very good and very, very disruptive to the strategy that your opponent's trying to do, and allows you to kind of use Dragolier and Stovey in ways that you might not be able to without Tackle Crusader. So yeah, just poking around, getting ideas, making sure that we're fully exploring, all these different concepts and all these different things that different players are talking about doing and or executing there. Of course, if you don't even want to build off a certain archetype, you can always just look up cards. Like, I'm pretty fond of, in fact, I can see I searched it up even recently. I'm pretty fond of just looking up Assault Synchron and just seeing what people are doing, what all decks people are playing it in, because I frankly love this card. It's one of my favorite cards right now, and again, just searching up the card and seeing where all it's being used can give ideas or inspirations of possible ways to utilize the card. But beyond just that, it also gives an insight into how to build your deck in preparation of the meta as a whole, because regardless of if the deck you're building is meta or not, it still pays to know what's popular to kind of add various tax and disruptions against whatever is popular in a general sense. And we're going to go ahead and talk about that now, as we're going to go ahead and dive into actually the process that I like to go when building or undergo when building a deck here, after having done my research on websites like this. So let's go ahead and go straight into that here. Okay, so for this example here, I'm actually going to use a Punk Sprite deck because I've actually been pretty interested in kind of bringing this deck back. For those who don't know, I built a Punk Sprite deck and got top 16 with it during the MCS Week 14 in the middle of Tier 0 format, like TEAR, Tier Limit format there. So it's a concept I've been really interested in trying out again. I haven't really explored it much since the Bestials came out because I kind of thought that maybe the punks weren't needed, but ultimately, I want to see how true that is or isn't. So when it comes to building a deck from a concept like this, right? That concept for me is going to be Assault Synchron is going to be the main one. And this is kind of how I underwent building the deck in the first place for MCS Week 14. Assault Synchron had just released in the Synchronized Cosmos, like that pack had literally just come out. And I saw this card and I was like, this card is cracked. I really like Synchro Summoning. Going fast makes me feel alive. And I knew that this card was really, really good, not just for being a level 2 tutor that can special summon itself, but it happens to interact with one of the best synchro monsters you can play in the game, which is going to be Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. So, already a concept right there, right? Assault Synchron plus Chaos Ruler, very good combination of cards, because of course Assault Synchron can bring back a Chaos Ruler that gets tributed or banished, and Chaos Ruler conveniently banishes itself by its own effect. So where I came to the idea of Punk was just, thinking about how to bring out a Chaos Ruler. I knew that Punk had an engine which pretty much allowed for one card Chaos Rulers, and that's going to be the Xayamine, right? Xayamine is technically a 1.5 card Chaos Ruler. You only need the Xayamine specifically, but you also need another card to discard for the Foxy Tune. So when thinking about the Punk engine, right? I want to start by just picking out the core, because you don't necessarily need every single Punk card for what I'm trying to do here. All I'm trying to do with the Punk cards is summon Chaos Ruler. And all I need to do that is the combo of Xayamine. I do want to see Xayamine a lot, so I will take 3 copies. But Xayamine then searches a Foxy Tune, so I'll put in 1 copy of that. Foxy Tune then summons Deer Note, so I'll throw in 1 single copy of that. And again, because I do want to see the Xayamine as much as possible, I'll throw in a couple of copies, if I can spell correctly here, of the Emergency Teleport. So I have isolated the Punk engine here down to its very core, and this is kind of what this section is going to be all about, right? I want to talk about separating a deck into, or how I like to do it, I like to separate a deck into 3 sections: the core, the extenders, and then the disruption. So this, so far, is our core concept right here, right? We're using Xayamine, we're using the effect to add Foxy Tune, to discard a card, to summon the Deer Note, and summon Chaos Ruler. The idea is that Chaos Ruler can find or be summoned alongside of Assault Synchron if you happen to just open it. That will not only allow us to make a level 10 synchro like Baron de Fleur, but then also bring the Chaos Ruler back. So boom, here's our core concept. It's pretty barren, only 10 card main, 2 card extra, but that's really all you need to start with, right? So we want to include sprites here as well, and the main reason I want to throw sprites in is for their ability to swarm the board alongside Assault Synchron. Assault Synchron being level 2, sprites have that natural synergy. So let's throw in our sprite engine. I really like Sprite Blue because I'm really focused on the combo line of Assault Synchron plus Sprite Blue into then Sprite Jet, and then that will make us the Cupid Pitch. Oops. Oh, hey, that actually still found it. And then Cupid Pitch can then bump its level up to 6 with the other Sprite monster and then make the Chaos Ruler. We do want a target to search with the Cupid Pitch. I will be grabbing Caligo Claw Crow for that. If you're wondering, by the way, how I, think of like combo lines like this, or like, think of like text like this, at that point, it really just kind of comes down to like just messing around with the idea in your head, right? Like thinking like, okay, if, because there's the natural idea of Assault Synchron's level 2, Sprite Blue's level 2, sprites in general are level 2, what does that lead to? I'm thinking like, okay, a 2 and a 2 is a 4, right? What good level 4 synchro monsters are there? Okay, there's Cupid Pitch. Okay, wait, Cupid Pitch can bump its level up to 6 and sync with another sprite to then go into Chaos Ruler. Boom. What should Cupid Pitch find? Cupid Pitch can find level 8 or lower monsters with 600 defense. I actually started with Nemesis Corridor because that tends to be kind of like the go-to, monster to grab off of Cupid Pitch. But, when I was looking up effect monsters that are level 2, effect monsters that are level 2, and I actually did this in a different search engine because I don't know if you can actually filter by attack and defense on Master Duel. I've never tried this. Let's try it. Nope. Okay, you can't. But regardless, in other search algorithms, you can filter by 600 defense, and that's kind of what led me to Caligo Claw Crow, right? I realized like, oh, this is searchable by Cupid Pitch. It's got the ability to special summon itself very easily because this deck plays a lot of dark monsters, including the sprites themselves. Quite a few of them are dark, and it's level 2, so it's got a lot of natural synergy. So now that we've added some sprites, let's go ahead and add a few more sprite cards here. We're going to add Red and Carrot. This is another part of our core concept, just ending on a bunch of negates, and then we'll throw in the starters as well. Really, where I'm kind of coming from with this is I'm looking to really make the most of the ability to summon Chaos Ruler alongside of a sprite line. similar to the Bestial Sprite Synchro deck that I've played quite a bit, but now I'm getting more into this specific deck. Again, as you can see, I'm more just branching off of that general idea, that core concept. So this is kind of our core concept here. Now let's go get into more extenders, right? Extenders are going to be things that benefit your core concept and very much complement it without conflicting with it as well. Now, you might want to argue that, well, doesn't the Punk engine, by nature of not being level 2, already conflict with sprites? And while they don't necessarily have natural synergy by themselves, again, we have that bridge of Assault Synchron, which is our main kind of core concept. And really, again, the Punks are only meant to go into Chaos Ruler, which very much helps us go into our Sprite engine by digging up, the Assault Synchron or one of our Sprite cards. And often, if we're using Cupid Pitch, you can dig us up more level 2 extenders there as well. So, branching off of that core concept, if we're thinking, again, more about just turboing out Chaos Ruler, it's a level 8 Synchro. So in conjunction with Assault Synchron, we can think about level 6 monsters. And of course, when thinking of level 6 monsters that special summon themselves and really like you to have a lot of light and dark stuff going on, which we do, there are, of course, the Bestials. Now, a lot of what I'm about to explain here with the Bestials and decisions I arrived to is a result of playtesting and trial and error, which we'll talk about here in the next section. But, when it comes down to the core of Bestials, right, it really is only 3 cards. There's, the Magnum Hut, the Jerusalem, and I like one Baldrake. That's really all you need for Bestials. I'm probably going to play some more, but again, I like to start with the bare minimum and kind of go from there, even as far as extenders go. So this is kind of the bare minimum you really need for extenders to combine with the Assault Synchron. You could also potentially combine these with the sprites to link into something like Sprint or Elf, which I'm going to go ahead and throw in now. Also, when thinking about, kind of core combo lines, right? We're thinking about what to do if we summon Sprite Sprint. Now, we could send the Nimble monsters like we do in regular Sprite. Or, we could, again, this is a result of doing a lot of research that I'm going to just kind of condense down here. We could look at level 2 effect tuners and see if there's anything neat we can send. After looking through this list, I found, there is stuff like Plague Spreader that could potentially come back from the graveyard. You could send off of Sprint. But then I realized, there's also Necro Shinobi here. Necro Shinobi is level 2 tuner that can bring itself back when banished from the graveyard, which we can do with Chaos Ruler. And we can go into Sprint by sending a Chaos Ruler alongside the Crow that we got off Cupid Pitch from the graveyard. And then from there, you can banish the Shinobi, bring the Chaos Ruler back with the Shinobi, and have plays. See how it kind of all kind of gels together? Again, this is something I would sit and think of the first try, every try, right off the top of my head, but it is very much the process that is just kind of, again, condensed down for the sake of time for this video. So, core concept right here. Now we want to add disruption. That's going to be the next major thing that I'm thinking about, right? And when it comes to Master Duel, there's a package that a lot of people like to refer to as the quote-unquote Max C package, and there is a lot of truth to it. A lot of the time, you do end up having to not only add Max C as disruption to your deck here, but on top of that, you need to add the cards that counter it best, right? That's going to be Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, as well as Called by the Grave. These are pretty safe staples that go into just about every deck. Now, that's not going to be literally every single deck that you'll ever play on Master Duel. There are decks that don't play maybe Call By, like Tier Limit infamously does not play Call By because you don't want to use Call By against other Tier Limit names and stop yourself there. Same with Ash Blossom, you might not have room for it in every single deck. A lot of the time Branded doesn't play it. That's just kind of a deck by deck basis that you would discover while you are doing your research on various websites there. Okay, so despite having filled now the Maxi package into the deck, you can see we're only at 31 cards. Although from here, now I'm going to be thinking about more expanding upon the kind of concept we have. Going back to the core and the extenders, seeing if we can fill in some of those, and then we'll look at some more disruption options as well. We definitely want to make sure we're filling out the extra deck here too. When the main deck starts to get more full like this is when I like to work more on the extra deck. We're looking at just all of our different combinations of things we can make. One of the big ones here is the Excel Synchro Stardust, although it's not technically part of our main combo line. It's really easy to make in this deck and really cares about level 2 tuners, which we also care a lot about, and it's a level 8 synchro, so it seems like a pretty natural fit, right? We can also include another level 10 synchro option. When it comes to extra deck, if you can make a certain synchro level or exceeds rank or link option, I like having multiple different monsters of that, level / rank / link marker, just to make sure we have a little bit of variety. Again, that'll be something you kind of uncover during your research there. So we'll throw in Chang'e as another level 10 synchro option here. And on top of that, we can go ahead and start expanding, I think, in the direction of Bystials, as we definitely need more extenders and disruption, and Bystials offer uniquely both. So I would like to throw in the Saronniers here, as well as the Lubellians, because they synergize quite well with this deck. The Lubellian in particular, you don't want to play in every deck where you're teching Bystials, but in ones where you like having the level 8 body on the field, that can be very nice. And, since we are playing Lubellian, I might as well try a Branded Regained, right? The Saronnier is helpful for not only having more extenders on board, as well as disruptions for light and dark monsters in the graveyard, but also it'll send Bystial Lubellian from our deck to the graveyard. Bystial Lubellian is very nice because it can tribute the Chaos Ruler, which will trigger the Assault Synchron effect, regardless if Chaos Ruler gets tributed and sent to the graveyard or banished as a result of its own effect. And because we've included more level 8 options here, I like to include a rank option as well. I've been using Hope Harbinger, but I kind of want to test out the Galaxy Ice Photon Lord. It's pretty much Hope Harbinger, but for monster effects instead of spells. So I might go ahead and give that a try. But again, just a rank 8 option as we're introducing more level 8s into the deck. As you're introducing new cards into the deck, you should definitely be thinking about how that will in turn affect your extra deck as well. We can also definitely expand on our Link monsters here. We've got the IP Masquerena as a very generic Link target that's also good in the Sprite engine. It can also definitely help when you're building a more original concept like this. If you've played a lot of different decks and know a lot of different combo lines, either way, because, I know, for example, sprites. Okay, I can go into a bit of a sprite board, and I know what that means to go into a sprite board because I have experience watching and or playing, in my case, playing a lot of sprites there. So, sprite boards can do on IP Masquerena, that can go into an Avermax. I can always spell this card's name. I think it's Avramax, right? Yeah, there we go. That's also another very nice option for kind of an end board. That's another thing I like to think a lot about is what does my end board look like, Even if I end up in a situation where I can't end on like Baron, plus Elf, plus Red, plus Blue, maybe, or not Blue, Red plus Carrot, maybe I can at least end on like an IP plus Avermax, which can often be very difficult to out. And another good target with the IP is the Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, also is very nice for just generally getting around towers monsters, which this deck doesn't really have a lot of easy access to getting around that, so I figured I'd throw that in right there. Alright, we have a couple more spots in the main deck. Let's go ahead and finish filling that out. So, one thing that I found over testing decks like this is that I really like having a second target for Cupid Pitch. And you might think, because we have room in the extra deck, like, oh, you can just throw in that Nemesis Corridor, and then from there go into the Thunder Dragon Colossus. But from testing in the past, I can tell you that that's actually pretty bricky a lot of the time. The Nemesis Corridor in particular, it's not a light or dark, so Chaos Ruler can't excavate it. It's not really that great to open with. And as weird as this might sound, I'm actually going to go with a second Caligo Clawcrow, because I actually don't mind opening with this card. It's a good extender, it's easy to use as an extender, and being level 2 and summonable alongside any dark monster, that can very much help us with our plays there. And then from there we have one more spot left. I actually, again, this is something that I know from experience playtesting, which again we'll talk about here shortly, that having another option to search with the Sprite Jet is also really good. So I'm going to throw in the Sprite Smashers here, again, if I can spell correctly. Yeah, we'll throw in these Sprite Smashers, and that'll round out our list of 40 cards. So now we just have to finish the extra deck. We'll top that off here. As far as Synchro Monsters go, I don't know that there's a whole lot else we're making, right? We're just pretty much making levels 8 and 10 in a deck like this. Although we do actually have the option to potentially make 9 sometimes with like Xamine plus a Bystial monster, so it might be worth exploring, going to level 9 Synchros. And as far as that goes, I think there's really two main options, which is either going to be Shen Shen or the Croco Dragon. I like Shen Shen a bit more, so I'll go ahead and test that. And you can always look at link monsters too, especially in a deck like this. I like including a generic link option like Dark the Dark Charm or Gloomy. Can potentially save us by summoning a strong monster in our opponent's graveyard or finding a monster in our deck. Again, it's also very easy for a deck like this to make. And for our last card here, we'll just try a second copy of Sprite Elf, why not? And then we can go ahead and save it. So, again, I did kind of expedite a lot of the natural process just for the sake of the video, but that's generally how I start a deck from scratch and then fill it out. I just, again, start with the core, start with exactly what you need for the combo line. Oh, I was also thinking about a second Foxy too, and I wanted to expand upon that combo line a bit potentially as well. We'll just leave the list as is for now. And actually, if you want to see this particular list in action, I am planning on recording some games with it. So tune in later this week and we'll definitely go ahead and check it out. But one more section I want to cover real quick, and that's going to be testing. Let's talk about testing a deck. Okay, so now that we have thrown our Punk Sprite list together, let's go ahead and do a little bit of testing. One thing I actually like to do before even just hopping straight into Ranked Ladder with a deck is going into solo mode, actually. And basically just the term that a lot of players like to use for this comes from Magic, I believe, is gold fishing. The idea that we're just kind of throwing back hands and seeing what all we can open with, and exploring the combo lines that we have as a result from there. So let's go ahead and open that Punk Sprite list we threw together, and I'm just going to hop into the first solo tutorial mode thing here. I'm going to click going first because I want to mainly explore going first combo lines here. And I like to do this not just once, but actually a number of times, just to, again, get an idea of, if I open with a hand like this, what can this do, so on and so forth. So looking at this opening hand, let's go ahead and explore it a bit. We've got this Lubellion, let's go ahead and activate it. Here, because we don't really have any other extenders, this Deer Note obviously is level 5, so I can't normal summon it. Sprite Starter is going to lock us into level 2, so I don't want to do that too early, and Brands of Regain doesn't really summon on our turn because our opponent isn't summoning. I'm going to want to make sure that I grab a Saronir here, because this is going to be my main line of play, and it'll set up this Lubellion back in the graveyard that I'm about to banish there. So banishing that Lubellion to throw down this Saronir. Now I can activate the effect of Assault Synchron and a special summon that. Again, because I'm mainly thinking that this deck's main focus is to get the Chaos Ruler, I'm just going to go ahead and dive straight into that here. Now, because we use the Saronir, we get to, as a fun little option here, chain block the Chaos Ruler effect with the Saronirs. So if our opponent wasn't Dragon Army and they were a real player that had Ash Blossom, we could go ahead and do that. And, the reason I like to start in solo mode here is that even something as simple as that, you might not necessarily think of on the spot, right? A lot of the times when you're actually in the middle of a duel, it can be difficult to, be in that kind of frame of mind in the moment. So being in solo mode, you get to stop, you get to fully look at your extra deck. You can even have, your deck list pulled up on another monitor if you have that, or written down on a sheet in front of you, and you can really just stop and be like, okay, is Lubellion always the best thing to send here? You can stop and think about things like that that might seem obvious, right? Solo mode really gives you the room to breathe and do that, and I really like doing this before necessarily diving straight into, again, duels on ladder there. So, oof, we only excavated the Sprite Jet, but to be fair, we also haven't normal summoned, so we could go ahead. I'm actually going to activate this Branded Regained now. We could just go ahead and normal summon this Sprite Jet here, and then go straight into our Sprite Sprend. I'm actually not even concerned about normal summoning Jet here because I have Starter anyway, so that'll grab Blue, the special Jet, and then we'll search with Jet there. So this is kind of what I was talking about as we were constructing the deck, this combo line here of utilizing the Sprite Sprend to bin the Shinobi Necro. And now we get to activate the Chaos Ruler effect to banish the Lubellion and the Shinobi Necro. That'll allow us to summon the Chaos Ruler. Shinobi Necro will then bring itself back. And then we also get to do the Branded Regained effect there as well. Now here, because I didn't make Cupid Pitch, I did have to banish my other Lubellion, which kind of sucks, but worse things have happened. So All right, here is our Shinobi Necro, and now we could even optionally here summon this Baldrake by banishing, like, I don't know, the Saronir here. And now we can make the Excel Stardust. And that's going to allow us to bring back our, what is it, the, of course, Salt Synchron here. So, again, I'm just kind of messing around right now. Like, I'm not committing to any one particular combo line here. At this point, we don't really have any other extension we can do. Oh, you know what? I guess that Excel Synchro line did actually deny us something back Chaos Ruler with the Assault Synchron. But, you know, again, that's why I like playing around in solo mode, because even if you make a mistake like that, it's not going to, like... I mean, to be fair, that mistake here probably wouldn't necessarily cost me the game, but it's okay to play around in solo mode and make mistakes like this. That's why I like playing around and doing test hands like this before hopping straight into a duel. It kind of lets you explore without having any of the pressure of an actual game on your shoulders necessarily. And again, I don't even necessarily do that just once. I like to do this, you know, anywhere from 5 to maybe even up to 20 times. And sometimes I'll throw on like a YouTube video or a podcast, and I'll just throw back hands as I'm listening to that and kind of explore from there. But the cool thing is that you can take as long as you need, just until you're comfortable with the deck and opening hands with it, and then from there you can go ahead and take the deck into, you know, ranked ladder here, and then explore from there. If you are still feeling a bit uneasy about playing the deck in ranked ladder, and I do actually like playing in ranked ladder over, say, casual match, it might be tempting to, if you're just messing around with the deck, just take it to casual mode, but I don't really like doing that, because people concede very, very easily in casual mode, and a lot of the time you're not going to get to explore how your deck plays, because people are just going to go ahead and concede very, very quickly as soon as you start going off there. So I do prefer ranked in that regard, and a lot of the time I find the best time to test a new deck is like at the very start of the season, when you're already at, you know, the rank floor of whatever you're at, whether that's like Diamond 5, Plat 5, Gold 5, wherever, because you can't de-rank from there, so it's not like you're going to lose out on ranks by playtesting. You're just going to end up sitting at whatever ranked floor you're at. So even if you rank up to like Master 5 from Diamond, then at Master 5 it's like, okay, we can take a bit of a break and test out some new decks, because I won't de-rank from Master 5, but I'll still get quality testing in. Of course, another great way to get in some quality testing is if you have a friend to utilize the duel rooms. The duel rooms are actually great because you can bump up the duel time to even as long as 900 seconds, which will, again, similar to casual mode, give you that time to breathe and think. And it's actually very helpful to playtest with friends, because one thing that I like to do is when playtesting with friends, we'll kind of play with our hands quote-unquote face up. Like if I'm on Discord, I might share my screen and talk about like, okay, you know, here's my opening hand, I'm thinking about doing this combo line. You know, even if you see that your friend has a disruption, you could talk about playing through that disruption, so on and so forth. Really playing with friends can allow you to explore not only new ways to play test, but also play at a pace that's comfortable for you if ranked ladder, you know, ends up being not quite the speed that you're looking for. So, yeah, I think that's about everything I wanted to cover as far as deck building goes. Again, 3 main things is that we're doing our research, we're utilizing that research to then build our deck out, which again I like to separate into the core, extenders, and disruption, and then we're doing some testing. But it's not just a 1, 2, 3 process. I find that that's a constant circular flow with pretty much any deck that I play, right? After playtesting, I'm going back and doing more research. I'm looking at specific builds, I'm looking at text that I saw but hadn't considered before, or maybe didn't even really know what that tech was doing in the deck, but now that I have more of an understanding of it through playtesting, you know, it's like, oh, I see people play this card for this situation that I encountered while playing. That'll lead to going back to the deck build and, you know, again, identifying like, okay, do I need to add more to my core? Do I need that other Foxy Tune? Do I need more extenders? Do I need less extenders? Maybe I don't need so many Bestial monsters. Or do I need more disruption? Do I need to add like imperms or something? And then you get back out there and you keep playtesting, and the cycle continues. You want to make sure that we are always going through that cycle. A deck is never done. It's really easy to think like, dust your hands and be like, all right, this deck is finished. But to me, decks really aren't finished. I really, like I said, going through this process over and over again. So hopefully you found this information helpful somewhere in the middle of all this rambling here. If you have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to me in the comment section below. For your homework tonight, this week, I'm going to ask that you leave in the comment section what resources you like to use when it comes to building a deck. Or you can talk about testing at a time in which a deck might have surprised you or found something that you didn't know about the deck just from building it that you then found in testing. Just tell me in the comment section a little bit about your deck building process. And as always, like I mentioned at the top of the video, if you have any suggestions for lessons you'd like to see played out here in Master Duel Academy, I'm always open to those suggestions. Feel free to leave those in the comments below. But that's going to go ahead and do it for this week's lesson. This is Professor Lex signing out and moving on to our outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack. You'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, it's not just a pure donation. You do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now. So without further ado, this is XLex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.